And thanks to the organizers and sponsors as well who help make these important events possible. I'd like to as well make a special thank you to Emma Summers of Euromoney and Farah Duff from the Bahrain Economic Development Board, who've helped me with a lot of logistical issues over the last few days. The organization that I represent today, the Middle East America's Energy Council, has been around for a couple of years. It exists to facilitate energy-related investment flows between these two regions. I'm very fortunate to have a very strong board backing me up on this initiative. They include the CEOs of such organizations as Aqua Power, Apicorp, Qatar Petroleum International, Oman LNG, Kuwait Catalyst Company, and some of their counterparts on the Americas side as well. And we also have the great privilege of having Governor Bill Richardson, the ex-Secretary of Energy of the United States, as a founding board member as well of our organization. We don't have any members of our board from Bahrain at this point quite yet. I'm hoping to change that in the near future. This excellent leadership team that we've has helped guide the creation of a number of different initiatives, but I'd like to discuss just two very briefly this morning. They're relevant to these proceedings. Number one, they've asked us to set up some initiative that helps gain clarity and understanding to all of the energy reforms taking place in Mexico specifically. Mexico has embarked on a very ambitious project of opening up its foreign investment in energy specifically, which is always a very delicate thing in Mexico, to foreigners. And the opportunities are enormous, and it's of increasing interest to the Middle East. It's also being led by an old friend of mine, past Secretary of Energy of Mexico, who's doing a great job with that initiative. And the other initiative is one focused on North Africa and also the emerging opportunities in energy along the North African countries. We actually have the good fortune that the chairman of that North Africa initiative, Mr. Youssef Alawi, is actually going to be on a panel later on, one that they thought I would be on. Now, the board recently took on its most ambitious initiative yet. What we're looking to do is actually bring on capital that is knowledgeable in energy that can help facilitate a lot of these transactions. So the intent here is to bring energy financiers under our roof. It would include, inshallah, GCC sovereign funds, various investment authorities, family offices, global and regional banks, and North American private equity funds, so that as energy-related opportunities arise, both capital and production can meet and make better and quicker decisions. It's a rapidly moving market. Now, Middle Eastern companies have been watching China, for example, over the last decade, has embarked on an aggressive expansion program and has invested in long-term overseas energy assets all over the world. Africa, in the Americas, throughout, pretty much everywhere. And the region here has actually come to the realization that something needs to be done. It's a boat we have to be on, so to speak. And that was one of the driving forces behind creating this organization. This is a natural next step in a globalized economy where borders become increasingly less relevant. And the Middle East has, by comparison, been far slower than other regions to embark on this globalization trend. The Middle East actually remains a marginal investor despite being such a large producer on a global scale. In a recent study, for example, performed by Ernst & Young regarding oil and gas transactions worldwide, the Middle East represents at best 17% of global transactions and at worst less than 1% of global transactions, depending on if you're looking at upstream, downstream, midstream, or services along the ways. But the fact is this is too small of a role for a region that has such important producers. Now, specific opportunities have also emerged for our members as well, derived either because of policy reforms being taken by specific countries, the examples are Mexico, for example, and Morocco, or due to shifts in the marketplace, such as those emerging now from the recent decline in energy prices generally. Let me give you a specific example. The state of Texas, over the last few years, has become a massive boom in energy investment over the recent years, driven, of course, by the shale revolution. Texas went from being producing 25% of US oil to currently it produces over 40% of the country's oil. And actually has been a significant player in converting the US in an energy exporter, net energy exporter once again. This growth has been fueled by fresh equity, but significantly by a lot of bank debt. And here's where the problem begins. With the recent decline in energy prices, many of these producers are now losing money and under extreme pressure from their banks, who now have sizable portfolio problems in this sector. They're looking for a way out, and many of these oil producers, legitimate companies with well-established and proven reserves, can be acquired at very attractive valuations. The very economy of Texas actually hinges on this because it's so energy driven, so dependent on oil and gas. So it's a big deal, certainly for Texas. Meanwhile, large U.S. private equity firms such as KKR and Blackstone have established what they call energy SWAT teams to start looking into exactly where there are some low-hanging fruit and some specific acquisition opportunities from these distressed assets. And it merits mention, by a happy coincidence, Saudi Arabia, historically the swing producer, has decided to continue pumping oil at consistent levels, thereby, at least for now, keeping prices low and creating this very investment opportunity in the United States that Middle East oil and gas companies are now beginning to take advantage of. For the Middle East energy industry to remain relevant, it will take more than enormous reserves and local production capacity. Globalized investing will take the region from important international sales to truly global player status, which in turn will create new opportunities and give the region access to more and greater human and financial capital. The alternative is stagnation, increasing irrelevance, and loss of control of one's own destiny. Bahrain is a comparatively sophisticated player and should take advantage of this. It is strategically well positioned due to its financial acumen and talented human capital. Bahrain, in closing, can and should take on the role of the region's dealmaker and investment banker. Thank you for your attention.